Are you or someone you know thinking about downsizing, but you don't know where to begin?
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Scenes.
On today's episode of Behind the Scenes, we're going to dig into the process of downsizing. To do that, we're going to chat with a couple of experts. One to talk about the emotional sides of such an endeavor, and the other one more of a logistical look at what it takes to actually downsize. And then we'll tie it all up at the end, and hope you get a lot out of this. Okay, so we're going to begin this discussion of downsizing with friend of the JanusGroup, Sandra Vesterstein, who's also the CEO and founder of Thrive Learning Collective. You have lots of experience helping people through transitions in their lives, don't you? So clients will approach us for a variety of reasons, including a death in the family or, a divorce. But a lot of times people will come to us because they are empty nesters and they're looking to downsize their home. And there's this common thread that we find with a lot of them. There's certain things that come up over and over again. So we thought we would chat with you about how to work through those. Whether it's emotional ties to the home is a big one, uncertainty about the next chapter of their lives, or just the overwhelm of the idea of making such a transition. Those are a few of the big points that we, always talk to folks about. So hoping you could share some of your wisdom with us today.
Great. Well, I think in all of those cases, they all involve change. Whether you want to make the move to downsize or not, it's still change. And let's face it, we feel safest when we can know what's happening. We have that certainty, familiarity. And I think what happens for a lot of people when they're excited about downsizing, because it is a new chapter for many people, they're excited about it. And then when they start thinking about everything they have to do to actually really downsize, and to look for a different house. And then how are they going to ever pack up the house that they've lived in for how many years? I think that can people can almost like freeze in fear over that. And so they may not say yes to selling their house, or they may back off on it a little bit because they really just they've never done it. For a lot of people, downsizing is the first time they've ever done it. So how do they know how to do it? And I know that you have different experts that you work with that help people to do that. But as far as, what I see, it's the emotion that's underneath the downsizing that can become the problem. Whatever the case may be, the bottom line is it's change. It's change. And change can be as hard as we make it.
If somebody were to approach you and want to chat about how do I get started? Like, what are the first things that I could do to wrap my head around this and work through those emotional pain points of change? Where would you start?
Well, I'm a big fan of, instead of pushing feelings away, I'm a big fan of welcome them in and say, okay, so what am I feeling right now about downsizing? And there may be a little sadness. And then just be present with the sadness. And then after you're present with the sadness and just noticing what maybe sadness wants for you, then ask yourself, so what is the end game here? What do I really want to feel? How do I want to feel in this new place that I'm going to be living at? And then, for most people, they're probably excited. It's probably going to be an adventure to find a new home. And so they have excitement, there's some fun, there's some, maybe they're able to exercise their creativity that they haven't been able to do that in their old home into this new place. And for a lot of people, it's a new beginning. Yes, this is an ending, it's a new beginning, and that new beginning feels really cool too. So, to be able to acknowledge the sadness and yet go forward and step into what is going to be like and what you hope it to be like. And so when you do that, then you can get excited about it. It could be an adventure to move. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God. A lot of people, when they're going to do this downsizing, they kind of steal the magic from it because they start going, oh, all the stuff that they have to do. And it's their attitude about it. And that's where, there's certain professionals like organizers that can come in and say, okay, well, let's make a plan of action. See, when a person doesn't have a plan of how to do it, it gets too overwhelming. Or you might be a big picture person and all of a sudden you see all those details and you're like, oh, I can't do that. And so you lose all of your motivation. So I just think that coming up with a plan of action, and a lot of times when we start thinking of all these things that we have to do, we don't write them down. We just let them ruminate in our heads and they go over and over and over again. And I'm a big fan, as you know, is, to go buy a little pad of sticky notes, little sticky notes, and just sit down and write down everything that's on your mind of what you would have to do to get this done. Mm-hmm. Find a wall in your home that's bare and start putting them on the wall and organizing them. And just doing that will take that whole overwhelmed feeling down.
So Sandra, how would you approach that conversation when somebody's just at the place where they're struggling with just the pure uncertainty of everything? They can't see that far down the road. They know that they need to do this, but they're just really struggling with the uncertainty of it.
Well, I think oftentimes we have to balance out uncertainty with excitement. Sometimes, people are just wired when things aren't in their control 100%. They start running anxiety and they get scared and all that kind of stuff. And those aren't really useful emotions when we want to, move on in life to a new chapter. And so there is going to be a level of uncertainty. So I would, if I was talking to somebody and wanting to guide them to all what it would mean to move into a new place, to downsize, I would start talking to them and asking them, hey, if you were to choose to downsize, what would you love to have happen once you've downsized? What would your life be like? And get them associated into what could be instead of being in the fear of what may not be. Because, if we get them associated into feeling happy and excited, they're just going to approach the downsizing in a whole different way. I mean, they quite possibly could have freedom that they've never experienced before doing this downsizing. And so I think it's just important to go and find out with your clients what do they hope to experience making this move. And then they open up the door into more of security, excitement, all that kind of stuff. And they close the door to fear because you don't want anybody to make a fear-based decision. They're not very good decisions. You want them to make a decision based on, security and knowing that we all have a certain level of uncertainty in life, every one of us. But when people get frozen by that, it's that uncertainty is way bigger than it is at a normal level.
So Sandra, how would you approach a homeowner to really start that conversation about sort of detaching from it emotionally?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's interesting. I've had this personal experience, and I know that for me, raising my children in the home that I sold, quite a few years ago, it was really emotional. I had no idea it would be so emotional because I was so tied up with that being my home. And then when I sold it, I did that whole, that ritual of going and saying goodbye to all the rooms and really giving thanks for that, for this house that provided such a beautiful, beautiful place for my kids to grow up and for me to be the mother that I wanted to be, all that kind of stuff. And I realized because I went from living in a, really beautiful home to an RV for 3 years. And the biggest lesson I got from living in that RV is that your home is in your heart. So wherever you go, your home is with you. And we might really like the structure that we live in, but our home is filled with our heart. And so you can be rest assured that wherever you go, your home is going to be with you. And you can create a beautiful home and, with this new place that you're going to be living in and create all sorts of new memories. So that was really freeing for me. So I've kind of I've kind of disconnected that the structure is my home. So the structure is a house. The home is in my heart, and I bring that energy into the structure, which we call a house.
Sandra, thank you so much. This has been wonderful information. As we wrap up, just to summarize, what I'm getting from you is that probably the most important thing is to really connect with those feelings and emotions that you're having about the process, and then having some clarity on the outcome, the end result, right? And then get help. There's lots of people out there that can help navigate the process.
Right. And when you learn to actually just take a step back and ask yourself, what do I ultimately want to feel? What is it? What's the ultimate outcome of this is, and it's really how you want to feel once this transition is complete. And you feel those feelings, navigating this transition will be a lot easier. Hey, Erin, thank you for having me. I think that buying a new home, downsizing, whatever it may be, it's our attitude for change that's going to make all the difference in the world. So I hope that people have some good takeaways from this. Is choose the right emotion for the job at hand.
I love it. Sandra, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, I am very excited today to introduce our next guest, Diane Davi with Straighten Spaces. And she's not only a rock star real estate agent in her own right, but she is also a home and business organizer. And the name of her company, again, is Straighten Spaces. Diane, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Erin. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Just finished up a conversation with our friend Sandra, where we were talking about some of the emotional aspects of downsizing, particularly the overwhelm feeling that people have when they're going through this process. So why don't we just start with maybe you walking us through how you begin this process with somebody that's going to be downsizing.
So whether you are downsizing simply because you want to move into a smaller home for just wanting to maintain some things smaller, if you are transitioning from living in your home of 30 or 40 years into an adult or assisted living, or you're empty nesters, it doesn't matter what your story is. You're not alone. It's overwhelming and emotional, and we're here to help. The process of where to start. I always say, look at the big picture of what you have in your spaces. Start room for room and start to, first of all, eliminate garbage. I can't tell you how many garages I have gone in to organize for clients, whether they're downsizing or not. And there are stacks of cardboard boxes. And once I start breaking them down, Erin, 50% of the mess was just empty boxes. So break them down and set them aside. So create designated areas in your home where you can stack the boxes, unless it's actually like trash or recycling. Stack the boxes, eliminate the trash. The good stuff is going to be your supplies. So that's the most unemotional item you can start with, and you'll find plenty more along the way. The second thing is the big picture of furniture pieces. If you're downsizing, we don't know if your beautiful china or buffet is going to fit into your new smaller dining room. So if you are really wanting to get rid of or donate or give away precious furniture pieces that are big, the first thing you got to do is make those phone calls to family. Oh, my aunt or my uncle gave me this, and my daughter said for 20 years now that she's going to want to take this when I downsize. Well, those conversations happened 20 years ago. So start making those phone calls. Give yourself a timeline and give your family a timeline with you and say, look, by next week, the furniture's got to be gone. So I'm going to either you're going to come and pick it up from me. And if it's not gone, then I got to give it away. And creating those timelines can be kind of emotional and tough, but it's got to happen. So keeping on a timeline is really important. The other thing is if time is of the essence to get the house on the market, I would say start making phone calls for those bigger items that nobody wants. Schedule a donation pickup as soon as you can, especially with COVID. Salvation Army, the Big Blue Truck, there's companies that will come and do free pickups for furniture, but they're backlogged and they're not doing as many house calls, and they're getting pickier about the furniture pieces they pick up. So it breaks my heart to say it. If you can't sell it or give it away, a lot of things are going to the dumps, but it is a reality of just what it is. So if you want to see them go to a good home, got to start that right away and get that donation truck scheduled immediately. Then there's the little things. These are the little things that when you watch Marie Kondo, who's the tidiest woman in Japan, and we've seen her now on Netflix, and I'm sure with people hunkering down with COVID, doing a lot of TV marathons. She has the process of picking up an item and saying, does this item spark joy for me? In some cases, a lot of cases, you walk into your own space and go, I love everything. So I do a little bit of reverse psychology. I find standing side by side you as a guide, it might help. Helping look at that big picture. And when things start to get refined, go, okay, what do you see in this space that I don't want? You don't like, I don't like it. And then have somebody there like myself or your son or daughter or somebody there to guide you and immediately eliminate all the items you don't want and move it out to the garage or in a space where it's going to go away. And then all you have left are what I call the hard yeses. I definitely have to take that with me. And then we get into the maybes that get a little bit more complicated. So we've started out now as a recap starting out with garbage, eliminating garbage and recycling, keeping boxes and bins for sorting if they're empty and they can serve a purpose. Big picture furniture, get those phone calls and delivery, donate centers, whatever need to be pre-scheduled ahead of time. So while you're doing this little stuff, you can have everything pre-scheduled. We've got the next thing I would say is clothing. I'll call it the soft lines. Back in the day, I worked for linens and things, if anybody remembers, which is pretty much now Bed Bath & Beyond. Mm-hmm. But we called anything that was soft a part of the soft lines collection. So clothing, towels, linens. A lot of people think, oh, I don't want to get rid of any towels or things like that for whatever reason. But chances are, ask yourself, if you're moving into a new home, are you going to want to bring your old towels? Or are you going to want brand new fluffy towels? There's a lot of really wonderful services. And I work with a woman actually who does assisted living location services. And there's adult homes for elderly that literally have been pulled off the street that don't have a thing to their name. So those are great places for linens and towels and things that you've had for a while that are not tattered to donate to. And then let it go. And then, perhaps you'll find out in your new space, you don't need 12 towels. You just need 4 or something like that.
It sounds like to begin the process, you start with a timeline.
Start with a timeline. Yeah.
And then you start with the big things, anything that's an obvious heirloom, something like that, that's getting passed along to family. Then you move down to donations and then to the dump.
Yes.
Does that sound about right? And then you jump into the little things.
Yes. I should back up. I mean, these are the little processes I'm talking about, but having a walkthrough with me, as well as, I'm not an expert in exactly what things cost, but I'm an expert in time with real estate. And I've hosted enough garage sales to see what the general public wants to buy and how quickly. And I understand what consignment stores expect if a lot of people want their furniture to go to a store and see how fast it sells. And there's a reality I think a lot of people don't understand of consignment stores expect your furniture to be unscratched, impeccable. And no matter how well it was loved, it's going to cost you money to get on the truck to get to the store. The store may reject it, but if they take it, you wait months to get 50%. And by the time that whole process comes to be, you're not making, $2,000 on that, buffet that you're thinking was worth a lot just because somebody else is taking on that job for you. So quick sales, I can help orchestrate some fast sales and some general realities of, I've seen things like this sell for much faster than these things over here that you're holding on to. Let's donate. Let's go ahead and just make a big run to the donate center with all these other things that might be in the way if you're thinking about hosting a garage sale. And there's a timeline structure that we can put in place of still making all of your wishes again come true with donating and trying to recycle or give things away before the inevitable big truck comes and takes it all away. Because eventually that does have to happen. And we have those conversations up front the day that I come walk through the space. I know it's hard because every case is different, but on average, like when should somebody start this process? How long does it typically take? Speak to the kind of the timeline of it. We're all guilty of being procrastinators. So I always tell people, start now. If it's daunting to think about that giant stack of photographs that haven't made their way into scrapbooks and things like that, which I have a lot of tricks that I can share with individuals about how to tackle those individual projects. But start what I call uprooting the home now. And something that I find that is really relieving to clients is that if you get everything you own that you want to take with you into bins and it's sorted, and looking at an entire room of piles is overwhelming to anybody. But if you look at it filled with bins that are labeled and kind of ready to go, it doesn't matter if it's next year, it doesn't matter if it's again next week, perhaps not next week. The reality of getting that organized is a lot, but next week or next month, or next year. It may seem so simple for me to say, but you just got to start moving and just don't stop. So, and I have worked with clients that are dealing with an estate before where they wanted to throw that garage sale, or they were downsizing to move into an independent living facility, into a little apartment from a 5,000, 4,000 square foot home. I've worked with those clients, and you would be amazed if teaming up with your agent and teaming up with me, how fast we've made things happen. You have to start letting things go. And that is something that I can help you with. But if you know it's going to be hard, then you just got to start now.
Okay. So you were talking about creating a timeline. Is part of what you offer for these clients is to actually articulate that and create that timeline with them? And then just kind of get them started, or do you get in there and help them actually do the organizing?
I do both, Aaron. So sometimes every person is different. They like to do the work themselves. Contractors, especially just like look, we've got all the resources. We've got a huge family. Just tell us what the realistic timeline is. And they talk to their listing agent and we come up with a timeline right then and there. I give them phone numbers to call and say, look, if you don't get people on the phone and we create something immediately. So I do everything from offering consultation services and pick up the phone and call me if something's not working out. In a lot of cases, I team up with a listing agent to work with their sellers to be hands-on as their guide. I consider myself really the gopher. And also, again, we all get emotionally caught up in, but I love this one thing. And it can distract us for the rest of the day. I can be there just to keep you and the family on schedule, knowing what that timeline was that we set in the beginning, helping you pack the things you said no to, like I was talking about. I'll get rid of it. I'll get it out of your way. Oh, here's the sentimental stuff. All right, let's stay focused. Let's take pictures out of the picture frames and just put the pictures in a box, but get rid of the frames. And so that whole process, I can be there every step of the way, hands-on. I can project manage the whole thing as well. I can consult for an hour or two. Here's your timeline, or I can be there for a week, just clearing the house out and getting it ready for sale.
Diane, thank you kindly for spending some time with us today. This is really amazing. In closing here, we talk about the overwhelm of this process. What's one thing you would just leave us with today?
Sure. Well, we start this process trying to encourage our clients to take that deep breath and prepare yourself for an emotional journey, whether it be fast or slow. What I can say is this, and Aaron, maybe you can agree with me, that I've never had a client who left their home and went through that daunting process, moved into their new space and say, oh my gosh, I can't stand where I'm at. They're just so relieved. They're so relieved that the process is over and they're so happy to be in a new space and they don't have to face that journey that they just embarked on. Now they're on their new journey and they're excited and lighter. So there's that silly pun, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but really it's relief. We've never had a client say otherwise, ever, at least for me. So
yeah, I agree. I will agree with you wholeheartedly. Diane, thank you again. Much appreciated. It was such a delight to talk to you. And again, we'll have your information below if anybody wants to reach out and get some more information.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Okay, as we wrap up this episode of Behind the Scenes, I just wanted to add one more thing. Obviously, Sandra and Diane did a great job of articulating those emotional and logistical aspects of this process. Having been in this business for so long. I've helped countless clients with this transition. But on top of that, I've helped my own parents do it. So personally, I have some experience with this. And it's just really can't be understated, the improvement in quality of life, both, emotionally, mentally, financially, when a transition like this is necessary, to just get in there and do it. And obviously, like we've talked about, having those resources there to help you through it is really important. But yeah, having gone through it personally and seeing, that transition, I can attest to the fact that at the end of the day, once you get to where you're going, it's really just a phenomenal transition, and what an absolute positive impact it has on quality of life. So if this is something that you're interested in having a conversation about, please contact us. Likewise, if you know anybody that is looking towards a transition like this, please pass this along, have them watch this video, have them give us a call. We obviously have lots of resources that we can share to help in that transition. And as always, we appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you joining us. You can find us on social media at JanusGroup RE, and all of our contact information is certainly below. So thank you again for joining us, and until next time, take care.
House goals realized. Janus Group at Remax Integrity.
It's a tooth!